Okay, so this is a quick high-level overview of the 2D platformer base example. Okay, I'm going to go through and talk about what each of these things does. So we're going to start at the very top with the lets, right? These are global variables that are going to be used throughout, right, in each of the functions. So the first thing we do is declare a player array and a block array. This means an empty array. Okay, now we remember an array is a variable that can store other variables. Okay, these are just numbers that I've set to use in functions like the player and stuff that I want to be able to control everywhere, so don't worry about them. You don't have to mess with them too much. We have two classes to start off with, block and player. Block is these grey things here. Player is the blue thing that actually moves around. Okay, so this is all just getting set up to then do things. This is all just information and stuff that we're going to do, but we're not doing right now. We get to the function setup. This is what we do when you press that play button up there. Okay, the first thing we do, create a canvas. That's the grey background there. Okay, sorry, it's the box that we're in. If I were to adjust it to be 500 wide, then you can see it's a bit wider. Okay, fun times. I'm going to put that back. So the next thing is that we do this thing called pushing onto the player array a new player, right? So this here creates a new player. If we look at the player class, there is a constructor, okay? The constructor gives us the option, well, it requires us to give an X and a Y value, okay? But we also have all these other properties that we just set in here and don't ask for in the creation of the object down here, right? We want to know where we're going to start, X and Y. So when I pop in, you see how I drop down, right? Because initially I'm at 200, 200. Why are we doing this? Well, that's got to do with how arrays work, right? So arrays, they are a variable that stores variables. So if I have an array for letters, and I've got A, B, and C in there, okay? That's my letters array. But let's say I want to add D to it, okay? What I would do is do letters.push. I'd use the parentheses, the rounded brackets, not the square ones, and I put D in there, okay? And now when I want to know what letters is, I can tell you that letters is going to be A, B, C, D, okay? So it takes whatever you put in these brackets here, right? And it will put it at the end of the array, okay? So remember that. We create a new player, okay? The player is an object that has many bits of information associated with it, and in fact, we can see what that information is at any time by just doing something like this, okay? So if we do that, you can see I'm getting loads of information, okay? Now, it's constantly changing because I'm moving around, but if I stop, it stays still, okay? And if I stop it from playing so we can just see, you can see that we've got all of this information which existed in the constructor here, okay? It exists in the object that we created in that array, okay? The block is very similar. We actually get more. We get X, Y, and S, S being the size. So we create a block item that has these details in it, and then when we go to draw it, we draw a rectangle using those, okay? And that's what this is all about. If we want to store information, this constructor only gets run once, okay, at the very start. Then we need to store the information inside that object, okay? And so this .x is storing the information that we got here in x, the variable x. So if we do this.x elsewhere in the class, or in this case here, we do something like, you know, player dot display or player dot x, right? This player array is just getting the thing. So we're just getting a single player. This is going to give me the x position of the player. Okay? So that's what the setup is doing. We're adding items to the arrays for the player and the blocks. The draw function is then taking all of that and actually drawing it. So we're going to skip over this for now. That's just to do with the camera. And we can see here, this is a for loop that iterates over the block array, right? We start at I is equal to 0, and then until I is equal to the length of the block array, because the length of the block array is 6, because we got 6 items. If we look in the setup, we can confirm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Lovely. So when I gets to 6, it stops. It doesn't run this code when I is 6. How do we know it's going up by 1? This here. This means the same as I is equal to I plus 1. Okay? But I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Okay, where am I? Yeah. So every time we go through the block array, we get each block and we do dot draw on it. Okay? Which means that if I want to change the way that the blocks are drawn, for example, I want to make them all circles, that's really easy. I just do that, and I'm going to have to take this out. Okay? And, well, because I have a very large block here, it's kind of, there we go. So the collisions aren't very happy with this because they're expecting a rectangle and not a circle. But you can see how useful a class is because I can just change one thing and it just changes everything. Okay? And then we've got the player. Now, this is a much more complicated thing. Basically, what's happening is we are getting every player in the array. There's only one to start with. And then here, we're saying, okay, for the player that you're looking at with I, just give it the name player, right? We don't want to have to type this every single time. It's a pain. So we call it player. Then we call player.display. That goes, it looks in the player class. It finds display, and then it runs the code that is in here. Just like with the draw function we saw with the blocks, okay? And it's going to do that for every player. There's only one, but every player in the thing. We're going to go more in depth on the player class in the next video, so I'm going to leave it there. Just remember your arrays and get your head around how the classes work, and it'll make everything easier.